Our speaker today is Robin Reichart. Robin is a professional storyteller and speaker since 1995. She uses her professional storytelling skills and experience as a lay leader to deliver impactful presentations. Her specialties include creating a peaceful world, interconnectedness, personal growth, interpersonal relationship, and earth advocacy. She is the author of Feather Gifts for All Ages, Earth Divine, Adventures of an Everyday Mystic, and has just released her first CD, Mystic, Stories of Magic and Wonder. We welcome Robin to our sacred space. Let us enter into worship together.
I'm being followed by a moon shadow, moon shadow, moon shadow, leaping and hopping on a moon shadow, moon shadow, moon shadow. If I ever lose my hand, lose my plow and lose my land, if I ever lose my hand away, I won't have to work no more. And if I ever lose my eyes, if my colors all run dry, if I ever lose my eyes away, I won't have to cry no more. I'm being followed by a moon shadow, shadow, moon shadow, leaping and hopping on a moon shadow, moon shadow, moon shadow. If I ever lose my legs, I won't moan and I won't beg. If I ever lose my legs away, I won't have to walk no more. Followed by a moon shadow, moon shadow, moon shadow, leaping and hopping on a moon shadow, moon shadow, moon shadow. If I ever lose my mouth, all my teeth, north and south, if I ever lose my mouth away, I won't have to talk. I'm being followed by a moon shadow, moon shadow, moon shadow, leaping and hopping on a moon shadow, moon shadow, moon shadow. I'm being followed by a moon shadow, moon shadow, moon shadow,
you would like to come up. Children of all ages, we're going to do the story for all ages.
There you are. Everybody comfortable? Ready to hear a story? I see we have some big kids in the crowd, too. Yeah, hi. Has anybody heard of Bill Harley? Raise your hand if you have. Anybody? Oh, good. I get to introduce you to Bill Harley. Write it down and take it home and look him up on YouTube and buy his books and his CDs because he's wonderful. And I just saw him tell this story 2 weeks ago, live on stage. It's called Bear's All-Night Party. And Avi didn't know how the moon weaves in and out of my service today.
I got another one, too.
All right. It was going to be the full moon, and Bear wanted to have a party to celebrate. He told his friends, the birds, that he wanted to do this. And they said, oh, no. It's not going to work, no. Everybody's going to be asleep when the moon comes up, and we get tired, and we just want to go to bed. And he said, well, you never know what might happen. And then he told his friend the porcupine, I want to have a party to celebrate the full moon. And the porcupine said, oh, no. It's late at night. Who's going to come to a party when the moon comes up? It's never going to work. Nobody's going to come. And the bear said, well, it's going to be fun. You never know what might happen. And then he told his friend the moose. You know what a moose is? Big, tall fellow. If you ever see one, they're really tall. You did. Well, he told the moose. And the moose said, oh, that's a bad idea. Who's going to come to an all-night party? Certainly I'm not. And the bear said, what do you think he said? You never know what might happen. So he's getting all these people, these animal people saying they're not going to come to his party. They think it's a bad idea. They're tired. They're busy. They've got other things to do. But Bear, he sends out his invitations. Did you ever have a party and send out invitations?
On my birthday.
Yeah, I've done that too. It's fun. Yeah. So he sent out his invitations, in spite of all his friends saying, oh, this is never going to work. He made food and he swept up a big clearing so it would be nice and clean. And he arranged to have some music for the party. And the full moon came and nobody was there. But he waited. And he waited. And he waited. But nobody showed up. Yeah. So you know what he did? He got up and he started to dance and he started to sing because the full moon was going up and it was so beautiful and big and round and light. And the whole meadow was filled with light from the moon. And the little birds woke up. And they flew closer. And the porcupine, he waddled closer to the party. And so did the moose. And the fox and raccoons and skunks, they couldn't resist. They were, what's going on over there? And so, what actually happened was Bear was right. you never know what might happen. Now, what do you think that story was about? It was about a bear. What might you learn from that story? Any ideas? Be nice. What did the bear do? And he was having everybody tell him it wasn't going to work, but what did he do anyway? He did it. And sometimes we call that faith. Have you ever heard of faith? It's like when you go to bed at night. Yeah, when you go to bed at night, do you expect you're going to wake up in the morning? Yeah. And when you see the sun, when you see the sun go down, do you think that the sun's going to come up the next day? So we say that we have faith that certain things are going to happen. And sometimes we have faith when we don't even know if it's going to happen. Just like Bear. He didn't know that he was going to have all these animals show up anyway, even though they said they weren't going to do it. So I leave you with that story, and I hope you will go home and look up Bill Harley, because he's a really great storyteller. He's got a lot of stuff for kids, and he's got a lot of stuff for big kids, too. This kind of big kid. So, I am in here.
I wish upon you grace, I wish upon you peace, I wish for less of what you want and more of what you need. I wish upon you an old life with a heart that stays young, but most of all I wish upon you love. I wish upon you truth when all you feel is doubt. I hope you know that an open mind still knows when to shut things out. I wish upon you a brave heart that will always rise above, but most of all I wish upon you love. So as the sun sets and the moon begins to rise, so even in the darkness you'll find the light. You'll find the light. You'll find the light. You'll find the light. Yeah, even in the darkness you'll find the light. I wish upon you an easy life. I wish upon you hard times. I hope you know that both joy and pain each need their moment to shine. I wish you ears that are quick to listen, that you're slow to use that tongue. But most of all I wish upon you love. As the sun sets and the moon begins to rise, so even in the darkness you'll find the light. You'll find the light. You'll find the light. You'll find the light. Yeah, even in the darkness, you'll find the light.
A reading from David White. I want to write about faith, about the way the moon rises over cold snow. Night after night, faithful, even as it fades from fullness, slowly becoming that last curving and impossible sliver of light before the final darkness. But I have no faith myself. I refuse it, even the smallest entry. Let this, then, my small poem, like a new moon, slender and barely open, be the first prayer that opens me to faith.
Say it's only a paper moon sailing over a cardboard sea, but it wouldn't be make-believe if you believe in me. Yes, it's only a canvas sky hanging over a muslin tree, but it wouldn't be make-believe if you believe in me. It's a honky-tonk parade without your love. It's a melody played in a penny arcade. It's a Barnum and Bailey world, just as phony as it can be. But it wouldn't be make-believe if you believe in me. You say it's only a paper sailing over a cardboard sea, but it wouldn't be make-believe if you believe, if you believe, if you believe in me.
Good morning again. A lot has happened since I was here last. I'm sure for you and for me. I broke my wrist in August, and it's been healing, so I have faith that it's going to continue to do so. So that's all I have for you today. Not really, I'm just kidding, but that right there is a big thing. Knowing that our bodies do heal a lot of times. As I wonder how to keep my faith in the current state of the world, I look to see how other people are doing it. And I found this blog by a college student, Alex Bosworth. She's a budding journalist, I believe. She's a student of journalism. And she said, as we watch all the bad things on the news, we need to cling to the idea that there is still happiness and love in the world. We need to cling to it like our lives depend on it, because in a way, they really do. Faith is the thing that keeps us from locking ourselves in our rooms. We have faith that the sun will rise each morning. We have faith that the people we love will continue to love us back, even though we do things to annoy them. We have faith that even in a time with so much hate, there are enough good people to make love worth it. You may not have faith in a God, but you have abounding amounts of faith in life and love and art and so many other things. Even when life is worse than I could ever imagine, she says, and I can't see anything good through my cloudy vision, I have faith that if I stumble through it, there is something wonderful coming up. Gardeners exercise faith when they plant and water and wait. Are there any gardeners here? I garden. You know what it is to see a seed come up. Every year I get excited. We all exhibit faith when we go to bed fully expecting to wake up in the morning, like I told the children. Faith lives in believing that the moon will continue to wax and wane and control the tides. To fan the fires of faith, to keep our spirits lifted, we turn to gratitude for all that is good and bountiful and beautiful in this world. The deepest faith, and the one most difficult to comprehend, is one that rides on through the darkness. No evidence exists that your strong-held faith will produce a desired result, and yet somehow you come back around to trust. This type of faith rests only on the belief that love and goodness prevail over all. This kind of faith is often called blind and even foolish. Helen Keller said, "Faith is the strength by which a shattered world shall emerge into the light." As we live in a world that may feel like it's shattering, I'd like to share a story with you that helped me form my own faith. Once upon a time, there was a little girl whose faith, whose life was shattered. She was born into the Depression era and never really knew anything but hard times. So I'm not sure that she knew initially that things were hard, but they got harder. When her father told her mother he was going to California to find work, he promised that he would try to find her a house next door to Shirley Temple, who she just adored. And he sent her a doll while he was away, a Shirley Temple doll. But unfortunately, and tragically for an 8-year-old, it arrived with a big crack down the center, which kind of felt like an omen to her. Her mother, she actually never heard from her father again after that time. Her mother was taking her and her 3-year-old brother to the garbage dump to look for scraps of food. That's what it was like for some people in the Depression. And her mother decided, this is not working. I'm having trouble feeding my 2 children. So she decided to send little Dorothy to her grandfather and grandmother's house. They lived pretty far away. And as little Dorothy boarded the train and waved through the window to her mother, wondering, am I ever going to see her again either, she vowed that she would never get close to anyone, never trust anyone, never have any kind of faith again, because it wasn't working for her. She arrived at her Grammy and Pappy's house, and Grammy said, well, I don't have any time for little girls' curls, so she cut them off to a little short boy cut. And Dorothy had loved her curls. And she heard, I don't have time for you. Well, thank goodness for grandfathers. And Pappy said, he held out his hand and he said, chin up, let's go live a little. And he took her into his arms, carried her out, and put her in a child's favorite spot at that time, the rumble seat of his old Ford. And he took her to every candy store, every ice cream shop, every soda fountain that he knew of, and he said, you order anything you want. And she did. What child could resist that, right? So she came home with her grandpa a little green around the edges, and Grammy said, George Washington Boyer, what have you done to this child? And Dorothy knew exactly what her grandfather had done for her, and she was over the moon for him for the rest of their lives. So when she was finally able to return home to her mother and her brother, she and Pappy exchanged letters and cards and phone calls, and occasionally Pappy and Grammy came to visit. So they really bonded through the years until first her mother died and then her grandmother died. And she did the only thing she could possibly think of. She invited Pappy to come and live with her. She was a grown woman at this point with a child of her own named Robin, me. And that was one of the best things that I think she could have ever done for all of us. Because Pappy, he was a jokester. And it was a dark time. He'd lost his daughter. And he went around, he would go to the table and pretend he was taking your food away from you when you'd really just sat down to eat. And he'd say, oh, I'm sorry. And he did those kind of silly things. And he got down on his 89-year-old arthritic hands and knees and let me ride him like a pony. He played games with me. He got down and helped me make blanket tents. And he sat on the floor and had tea parties with me and my dolls and my teddy bears. And I bonded with him, and my mother bonded even more with him as they went next door to the church and they played on the piano together. And that Easter, he bought my mother a beautiful Easter lily with 3 big blossom or big bulbs, buds, thank you. And they opened on Easter morning. And after all that, 6 months after Pappy moved in, one morning I woke up and his bedroom that was right across from mine was empty. And I somehow missed the whole ruckus in the middle of the night when the rescue squad came and they took him away and he passed away. So my mother was coming close to going into that 8-year-old place again. She was missing her mother and her grandmother and her grandfather, who was at this point her best friend. And that Easter lily sat on our porch, turning brown and brittle, and it got shoved under a chair, and there was no light, no water, nothing. And the following Easter, it was approaching Easter time, and someone knocked on the door, a friend. My mother answered, and they said, "Did you see this plant here under the chair?" And she looked, and there was a lot of green on the plant. It was coming up. So she picked it up and took it inside and started to water it and put it in a sunny window. And on Easter morning, the one bud that it got opened up into a full bloom. And it smelled like heaven. If you've ever smelled an Easter lily, you know it's a really strong, sweet smell. And my mother said she could hear her grandfather's voice saying, "Chin up. Let's go live a little." So that was my early introduction into what faith is. When you look for the good gifts, the little things that happen every day when your eyes are open, that say faith. Faith is defined as confidence in a person, a thing, or a belief not based on proof. Hope is an optimistic attitude of mind based on expectation or desire. We need hope and faith. We can look at hope like a stepping stone in elementary school and faith as graduate school tests passed. Once we know faith and allow it into ourselves, grace takes over. And that was the exact word that I was thinking of with all the things that I said the moon is weaving through this. There's some kind of grace in that. There's some kind of special magic in that. Daphne Rose Kingma says it best. Hope is promise. When the present seems unbearable, hope allows us to find ease. When we hope, we partake of the state of absolute calm that has already understood and that everything we have done and everything we shall do will be beautiful somewhere, sometime, that our sorrows will enhance us and even our tragedies will bring us to our depth. Then grace moves in fully. It adds a quality of silkiness to all our movements, not only to the way we move our bodies, but to the way our spirits inhabit them. Not only to the way we move through the world, but to the way in which, because of our genteel openness, we allow the world to move through us. Grace is beauty, refinement of the spirit. We feel it, recognize it, are beautifully softened and engaged by it. Whenever we stand in its presence, in bringing us into its comeliness, grace brings us into our depth. We hold grace as the measure of what we may aspire to as the spiritual grandeur in our lives. Wisdom, the soul's ancient intelligence, allows us to know when to trust. Faith, hope, grace, and wisdom are not shiny little virtues, but grand powers of the soul that will insist through their stunning magnificence that everything else in your life rise up to meet them. When you cultivate faith, hope, grace, and wisdom, they will require in every arena that you become much more than you already are, that you step through your old limitations and envision a larger world, a breathtakingly beautiful world, alive with possibility and abundant with the power to redeem itself. There have been days recently where I have felt my faith is dead. I can't put a hand on it. When I hear the latest abomination in the news, I think this isn't the country I thought I lived in. How did we get here? Haven't we evolved at all? Hebrew 11:1 from the Christian Bible tells us, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Then I remember Pappy's Easter lily. I realize I can have faith that the light of day always follows the dark night. I can hope that things will get better because I've gotten through a lot of dark nights. And the light of day did come back time and time again. As William Sloane Coffin captures so well, new and greater realities are not something one believes in as much as something that one creates by taking a leap. We convince ourselves that life can't be trusted, that people will let us down, that this is as good as it gets. And then a hunger rises up in us that says, act anyway, trust anyway, fear not, try again. In this sense, our tradition challenges doubt. Some doubts are healthy, other doubts keep us small. Don't trust the impulse to stay small. Listen deeply to life's mystical whispers about there being more. In other words, faith is an invitation, more so than a statement of belief. You can allow faith to lure you into new life. Doubt the voices trying to convince us of an endlessly troubled world. Know that life wants more from us and for us. Know that there is a mystical urge in us and around us that does not want us to be satisfied with the way things are or remain shriveled in the safety of small living. Listen for the faithful whispers. Faith is available to us no matter how far down a dark well we go. The hope that is left after all your hopes are gone is faith rooted in the heart. All we have to do is be open to receiving and look for faith in places we might not expect. You might not expect faith as a handout, but I asked Jim if we could include some things to give us faith that we can restore the earth. I've included that I talked to some people. I belong to a page on Facebook that is run by biologists. They're state park rangers, and one of them was a client of mine, and I asked, can any of you there give me lists of organizations that are currently making big changes in the world? They really are doing the work. They're not just asking for funds and doing something else with them, going to Florida or whatever. So I trust that this list is genuine, and it's not just about giving money to these organizations. There are organizations you can volunteer for. The person that is the main contact on this page is doing a project in Jamaica Bay near New York City, where they bring in young students like 3rd, 4th, 5th graders, and they have them for 2 years, I think. They've been planting a pollinator garden, and the kids have been in on every phase of it, planting seeds, watching them grow, learning what they are and what they do, and watching that the pollinating insects are actually coming to this garden, so they can see the result of what they're doing. And there are things on here where anyone can put in their energy. You can volunteer if you want. We can plant trees and have faith that they will grow to fulfill their work healing our air and our water. Faith they will continue to give generously of their incredible medicines. And I highly, highly suggest you check out Tree Sisters, whether you're a sister or a brother. They have been they're in the middle of doing a 6-week program where they're bringing in all these incredible women to speak. There's biologists and scientists and all kinds of people, and Tree Sisters' goal is to plant 1 billion trees around the world, and the head of this is leading a bunch of women all over the world in planting these trees, and that gives me a lot of hope, and I have faith that they are going to accomplish what they're doing. We can support and promote these organizations that protect our creatures and work toward a greener world, having faith that a sustainable future is already blooming. We can perform random acts of kindness for loved ones and strangers alike. We can find a meditation style that suits us, and there's many, to calm and soothe our worries. We can learn healthy and effective forms of communication for the benefit of all people, whether they're people we agree with or people that we don't agree with. And have faith that cooperation and unity are possible. In conclusion, I invite you to allow faith, hope, grace, and wisdom to weave themselves through the fabric of your being when you witness the rising and setting sun and the steadfast nature of moon cycles, when you hear the sound of a newborn baby's cry, or look into the eyes of your loved ones. Faith is the bird that feels the light when the dawn is still dark. Rabindranath Tagore. Thank you.
Tricky repeats. Our closing words are from Reverend A. Powell Davies. So far as I can see, all the great leaders and the great exemplars of religion possessed faith in life's essence, in its hidden meaning, in its moral claim, and in the rightness of its inner spiritual guidance. And by this, the great ones live their lives. So must we. There are no problems greater than our power to solve them. There are no burdens greater than our strength. We shape by every moment of our lives the great decisions. Then let us venture still, with reason as a lamp to guide us, but lighted with the light of faith. I hope you have a good day.